All right, we are live on YouTube. Everybody on Zoom, welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome. And Facebook, welcome too. Today, we're going to talk to Link user Nick Law. And Nick basically went from zero, knowing no Spanish, knowing absolutely no Spanish, absolute beginner, and he moved to Argentina without knowing Spanish. And he used Link to build up his base vocabulary and get to a level where he can actually take advantage of living in a foreign country to learn the language. So welcome, Nick.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Yeah. So, yeah, it was I met my partner in London, who's from Argentina. Obviously, she's fluent in English, probably better than myself, to be honest. But when I said I'd go to Argentina because we wanted to continue the relationship, and then so I had to dive in head first, basically, and did a bit of research, and thankfully found Link. So yeah, it's worked out, thankfully, but long journey.
So yeah. I'm curious, what was it about Link that attracted you when you first found it?
For me, 100%, it was in my number one hobby is to read. So either there was something I was reading and then listening as well, it just made a lot of sense. So just the reading factor, my own thoughts before I'd ever learn a language, I was like, well, if I could learn to read it, I could eventually learn to understand it. Obviously, now it's kind of changed where I think the listening is probably, to be honest, a bit more important, especially for reading here. There's nothing wrong with reading in Spanish, but like understanding is probably the bigger thing. But
right.
Yeah, just the fact that it was reading and I could translate. The import function as well was super handy because the whole idea for me was to eventually get to the point where I'm at now, where I can read a novel in Spanish.
For those who might not be familiar, on Link you can we have an import function, and basically you can create your own lessons from a book, a YouTube video, Netflix subtitles, pretty much any web page. You can create your own lessons, import the content into Link to study from. So Nick, you wanted to read a book in Spanish and you imported it into Link.
Yeah. So I mean, that was the goal, really. For me, that was my first goal I set. I mean, this was obviously, my advice now to myself back then would be like, don't set such an immense goal because it took time,
Right, baby steps.
Yeah, I was hurting myself by doing that. But yeah, that was the goal. I figured if I could start reading a book and then, finish the series, just read a book, grow your vocabulary like we all know, and then over time, listen, learn. It's sort of changed now where the listening definitely has, with, again, the import function for me now, compared to where I started. Now I'll download an interview on YouTube or a story in Spanish and just try to understand it. And then I'll read it. There's not necessarily one thing I'll do. Sometimes I read it first, but I really, because I'm living here, I want it to be practical, obviously. The whole idea for it to be practical. I'm getting a lot of experience now that I can speak a bit, where I'm in conversations, and it's easier for me these days. But back when I didn't know anything, it was like I had to get that 2 hours a day of listening and reading. And like that was my goal for 5 months probably.
Yeah. So we talked yesterday. You were telling me that you met your girlfriend's family and her dad doesn't speak any English, and you were able to talk with him.
Yeah. We got by. Like, I would say it depends on where you're at in your language learning. But if you're like me and you're getting like sort of obsessed with it now, like, I'm like a B1 level, which is like I can talk a bit, can understand a fair bit, can get by. Like, I wouldn't say I'm like running the conversation, but I can have a chat.
Yeah.
So I was able to talk to him, which was really like probably one of my number one goals.
Yeah.
This Australian idiot dating my daughter. So yeah, that was like a big deal for me. And like her, even though her mother's an English teacher, obviously being able to speak to them in their native language with my partner as well, you know, it goes both ways. So I had to learn Spanish. So yeah, it's getting to the fun. It's really fun now, put it that way.
Right. At first, it's just you got to put in the work, get those known
Yeah,
words up, and then once you have a foundation of vocab, then you can actually start
yeah.
talking.
100%. I would say that first 3 months that you'll do, if you really dive in, is probably the hardest part, really, because as little. I mean, some people say the opposite. For me, it's like you can't speak, you can't really understand too much. You know,
Mhm.
like I found it really hard. Maybe because I was here and I was constantly aware that I didn't understand anything. I don't know, but
Right, right, right.
you know, like I'd
You
go
didn't have
con.
anyone hand holding you like in
No,
the
no,
class.
there was no
Yeah.
one saying like you're pretty good for what you know you're putting in the time. This is great. It
Right,
was like would see my partner's friends, and I would
right.
be literally like trying to concentrate so fiercely to understand anything, and it doesn't work like that. You know, you can't force it really. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was the hard part for me. Now it's I like it's night and day. Now it's really enjoyable because I can
Hmm.
follow. It's still a bit hard if there's 5 people all chatting and I mean it's Argentina, so there's a hell of a lot of slang as well.
Yeah.
I think to every country though you could say, but I feel like the Argentinians are they've got that covered. So yeah, it's to the point now where it's really enjoyable. It's paid. It's vale la pena, as you say, like value
It's worth it.
worth the pain. Yeah, yeah,
Yep. So so obviously the 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 big goal is to be able to converse fluently in Spanish. And then you said that the first goal you set was to read a book. So when you first downloaded Link, when you first started using Link, did you immediately get into the book, or did you do some
no,
lessons before that?
no. I would say probably for a good. It would have been a long time. It was like 4 or 5 months of Link. Probably the first four, you could say definitely. Everything was content on there. For Spanish,
Uh-huh. Like
plenty of content.
beginner, like the
Yeah,
beginner
yeah.
content,
I did
the mini stories and
yeah, the mini stories. I did all that stuff. I didn't really repeat them, to be fair. I think
uh-huh.
a lot do, and they repetitive, and I'm sure that would help. I didn't at the start. I didn't listen enough as well, like play the audio
Yep.
because I was so fresh.
Yep.
Like the audio and the words, I had literally there was nothing going on for me.
Right.
Took me a little
It
bit.
didn't mean anything to you.
Yeah, yeah. I should have. Now, if I could go back, I would just persevere and play it again, and then just literally follow along. And
Mhm.
then, I probably would be further along now if I'd done that. But
Okay.
at the time, I just wanted new content.
Right.
Honest, the way I've used the content on there, I haven't repeated a whole bunch of stuff, which is probably why my numbers are pretty strong
Okay.
in the early days.
Right.
Like I just import basically
Yeah.
everything. There's nothing I read on LingQ. I just import these days. But
Mm-hmm.
learning to read properly, like sub, I don't know, 20,000 or something before that, like, yeah, it was all on LingQ. It was fine. There's so much content on there if you're learning Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for Spanish. Some of the
Spanish is great. I think other
yeah.
languages, but Spanish.
Yeah, some of the less popular and beta languages have less content, but with Spanish
Yeah.
there's a ton of content. And yeah, maybe just to slow down here a bit, we got a lot of people on YouTube and Facebook and leaving comments and whatnot. So I just want to take a step back. Yeah, so Nick mentioned that when he first started using Link, you didn't really, so you did the mini stories, but you didn't really repeat. So you didn't repeat the lessons. And I know Steve Kaufman really recommends, go through one lesson, read it, do the links so that the words that you don't know, and if you're a beginner, it's going to be all the words are new that you don't know.
Yeah.
So create links for every word, and then you will have a general idea of what they're talking about. You might not, you probably won't have a 100%, but you have a general idea. So then once you have a general idea, you can go to your playlist and listen to the audio over and over. And especially with the mini stories, there's a lot of repetition there. So listening to those over and over and over, it helps to stick. Now that's what Steve recommends, and a lot of people have success with that. But Nick, you said that for you, you just wanted new stuff, and there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
just for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm lazy. I don't know. I just want something new every
Yeah,
time. And then I figured for me, if I read and listened enough as well, and just did it consistently, I'm going to see those same words.
right.
And it is true, but I would say in the early days, if you're like me and you've never studied the language really before properly, that the repetitions probably, it is the way to go. Like I'd
Yeah,
probably, if I was studying another language now, I would for the first 3 months, I would at least repeat like the mini stories, I don't know, twice a day, 3 times a day. Not all of them every day, but at least the one story. And then it's
right,
because you really need to drip feed your brain in a way. Like
right.
you can't, I don't know, your memory, I find it, even though like I do like quite a few hours a day, like especially in the early days, I only started with half an hour, 15 minutes, and then it's just slowly grown until I firm 2 hours a day on LingQ, and then I have a teacher that I do an hour with outside LingQ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a happy medium that everybody has to find between
Yeah.
repetition and novelty. Like
Yeah.
our brain likes novelty, our brain likes repetition. So, I mean, learning a language is all about like the using the same words in novel ways. So
Yeah.
that's when you become fluent, you have a grasp of the words through repetition, and you're able to use them in novel situations. That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to. Um,
I'd agree. It's like when you're a bit further along, you find someone on YouTube in that language that you like.
yep.
Intro will always be the same, or even on LingQ, there's so many podcasts where I can't remember his name. What's his name? Juan, I think his name is. I don't know if you're up to that yet. You'll know who I'm talking about. Anyone that's
Okay.
like
No, I don't know.
Spanish and they're like in that middle area.
Yeah.
And he's like the zaniest character ever. And like his introduction's like burned into my mind because I was like, I don't know how many more of these I can do. But I was
Yeah,
like,
I know. There's a course called Radialistas in Spanish that I really, really enjoy. They're short, 4 or 5 minute uh audio, and there's text to it, obviously, on like science and kind of moral lessons. I really like them. One of the voice actors, he has this really deep, booming voice that I just love. So, I mean, the point is for everybody out there listening to us today, in on Link, you have a lot of options, and probably explore the app, find some content, and chances are you're going to find at least one series of content that you really, really like. And when you find something that you like, it becomes enjoyable to study the language. It's not,
yeah,
you're not doing, it's not schoolwork. It becomes, like you said, something that you obsess over. And
yeah.
people that are successful with learning a language, they really come to love the process of learning the language. And Link is great because it gives you options in terms of all the courses that we have, and then also finding content outside that you can import yourself. So
Definitely.
so
Agree.
someone here on YouTube said that Harry Potter is a good start for language learners. Just just curious. So you said that your goal was to read a book in Spanish, Nick. So at what point in your journey did you start reading that? And then what was that book?
Well, basically that person's spot on. That's because I'd read that series as a kid. I'd seen them films. Well, as a kid, let's be honest, I was a teenager, but
Uh-huh.
whatever. Yeah, I'd read it, so I had experience with it in English. So I was pretty confident that uh, once I had a basic grip on Spanish, I could read it. On LingQ, you can, again, I'm not sure of the stages, but I think it's repeated quite a lot. There'll be the first 3 chapters in there that's just on LingQ. I
For
read
Harry
the,
Potter.
I think I read those. That's probably the thing I repeated the most because I kept wanting to check, am I there yet? Like, am I getting it?
Right.
And I was really there for quite a while. Like a fiction book with all that scene dressing, you know, and like it's so many nouns, like names of things, which like in a way, even though a verb in Spanish has a million different connections, you still kind of get it, you know, so you can get it in context. If it's like a random noun for an object that you haven't seen before,
Broomstick.
like, talking about, I have no idea, you know.
Yeah, if you don't know what a broom is, how are you gonna get Harry Potter?
Yeah. Like tons of words in there, you know. So, I mean, I'm on the last one now. I know other users have got where they've imported Harry Potter onto LingQ or random books. To be honest, that was too much for me. I've read it on Kindle, and then I read like web novels, which is like, if you've read web novels in English, you'll know it's like very like fantasy or sci-fi usually, but also in Spanish, and they're free and they're online. So I literally go to the next chapter, import in LingQ. It's usually quite simple writing because someone's self-publishing. So it works for me, to be honest. I love reading those. I read the news every day. BBC. That's fantastic.
You read the news in Spanish.
Yeah, every day. Yeah. I just read what they have on there. They have honestly, there's some great articles in there. So I learn about Latin America, South America a lot, learning Spanish, which is one of the real pleasures of it, you know. Obviously, I'm living here, but the amount of YouTube videos I've watched about Argentina or Latin America, even I told you yesterday, there's a YouTuber I think he's on LingQ, and his channel is what, El Garden de Martin or something.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, like he's just, I know too much about this guy. I watched every one of his videos, but he's really into language learning, and he does all the interviews in Spanish. And I've gotten to that point now where I can import it into LingQ, read it, usually listen at this point, and then just clear the odd word that I don't know. And then, I mean, it's what I'm obsessed with right now, because I'm still to a higher level. So anyone talking about language learning, I'll watch if it's in Spanish, put it that way.
Yep. Hey guys, I am so yeah, Nick mentioned a lot of different you know, you mentioned web novels and news sites and YouTube channels. So I'm gonna post here. I'll post it on Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. It's a link to a forum thread on Link with a bunch of different language learning sites and places to import content from. And we have a spreadsheet there that has everything organized for each language. So you can go there. And for instance, if you want to find ebooks, click on the content resources link and then find the language, and then there'll be links for how to find ebooks in that language, or YouTube channels for that language. So there's a treasure trove of different places to find content. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm monitoring the chat here. So I see on YouTube we got quite a bit of questions and comments. So if anybody has a question for Nick, go ahead and post it there. I see Für die Forschung said, "Oh, you're Australian as well. Nice." You
Yeah.
can tell you're Australian.
Yeah. Well, very true.
When you start out, you can read a chapter, then read again with the audiobook. Yeah, that's that's one way you can do it. Read the
I did that actually. Yeah.
uh-huh.
I mean, to be honest, there's people that will read the books on YouTube. And I listen to those. Anything free, I'll do. I don't know if I'm cheap or what, but yeah, I did that. I got to like, I think it was the third one, and then it's longer. And to be honest, I was reading quicker, and it was just getting annoying because I kept getting ahead, having to go back. I know that really experienced user. I'd actually followed him before he did the interview with you, the guy that's learning Swedish.
Yeah, Toby.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, he does what I do, but with 3 languages basically.
Yeah,
He's unreal. But
he has a very, very intensive schedule.
oh yeah, I don't know, like I couldn't do that. That's too much. But I have a lot of respect for him. It's incredible. But how he was saying how he speeds it up and then reads, like really interesting stuff. I didn't even think about doing that. But for me, now I'm living here, so I got a lot of exposure to the language.
Right.
With COVID, restrictions have dropped here basically. So
Mm-hmm.
I can go and speak to people. There could not be any friendlier in this area of the world. Like everyone wants to speak to you basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know everything. So yeah, I get plenty of language practice, listening practice. I'll play podcasts while I'm working because I work remotely, obviously. So yeah, I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, für die Forschung again on YouTube says, wow, going to Argentina without knowing Spanish, the perseverance. Well, I guess you had your girlfriend to help you in the beginning, huh?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if this is pre-COVID and I was backpacking, you'd be pretty gutsy to go solo and do it. A lot of people, and they get along just fine. People do speak a bit of English, and like it's incredible how much language you can get across just by like pointing at stuff, which is sometimes I still have to do. You get those moments where you're like a deer in the headlights and you lose it for a second, and then you walk away, and then you're like, now I remember it fluently. Like, it's just practice, So yeah, I don't know. You could get by, but having the girlfriend that speaks fluent Spanish speak help.
It helps. Okay, and let's see. Sla Costello on YouTube asked, will that help me retain and speak better? I'm not. Okay, so he's talking about reading a book. Will reading a book help you retain and speak better? Should I read aloud to myself? He's at an intermediate French level, but hasn't spoken French consistently in more than 10 years. So yeah, I think this is a good question. And it comes up a lot on LingQ. If your ultimate goal is to actually speak the language, how does just focusing on reading and listening help? And I think especially as a beginner, you really need to build up a base of vocab words before you'll get a lot of value out of speaking. So reading and listening, that's going to be the key to building up your base. Because without that base, it's like if you're building a house, you need bricks, and reading gives you the bricks. So without those bricks, you can't build a house, even if your goal ultimately is to be able to speak, which most people, that is the case. So that's how I would say. I mean, I would love to hear about your experience, Nick.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I know exactly where that guy's at, because I'm not much further along. I'm probably like 2 months ahead, I'd say, just from reading that comment.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like, you sort of getting it, but you're like, I feel nowhere near speaking it. I'd say I've read shadowing is really helpful, where you read out loud. I definitely do it now, but
Yeah.
I don't know how it is for French, but I know with Spanish how, it sounds like it reads, you know what I mean? So it's a bit easier for me to know how the word should sound.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd worry about, I honestly, I don't know the first thing about French though, but as long as you are pronouncing it correctly and you feel like you're all there, then definitely do that, because that helps. Especially for me, Australians have the most lazy language ever. For me, do all these syllables all the time and not drawl like we do and actually just finish a word is difficult. So
I think I heard somewhere that among all the different dialects of English, somewhere in Australia had the least amount of differences in sounds.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it is everything's abbreviated. So one syllable is better than two in Australia. In Spanish, it's like, let's see how many we can fit in. So
yeah, I know. When I was living in Colombia, different, like in Medellin where I was living, they people enunciated a lot more. But if you go to the coast of Colombia, they often don't finish the end of the word. So instead of saying like vamos atrás, they'll say vamos atrás.
Yeah. The Argentines do that a bit. I mean, I'm living in Cordoba, which is like known for their slang. So I've come into Argentina, then gone.
What do they call people from Cordoba?
Cordobestas.
Okay.
I think. I don't know.
I thought it was something like culoños or something.
Wait, I don't know. If there's an Argentinian on here, they'll be like screaming that. How do you not know? I don't know if that's true. My girlfriend's probably in the other room crying, but yeah. Sure.
But yeah, in regards to Sla Costello's comment on YouTube, yeah, I was in a similar space where I had learned the language in the past, and now I'm getting back to it. And like I said, I was living in Colombia a few years ago, and I'm just in the past few months getting back into Spanish and really not doing much speaking, just focusing on LingQ, building up my vocabulary. But I found that when I do speak with Spanish speakers, my brother's fiance is from Mexico, and when I speak with her, I can get right back into it even without having the speaking practice, just because I'm exposed a lot more to the language just using LingQ.
Yeah, it is. I think it comes down to that. I think I can't see reading ever being a waste of time for learning language, to be honest. If you can read and listen, your vocabulary is going to rise. You're just going to get a better. Also, you're immersed into if you're really into a book, you're gone. You know, instead of learning, you're just reading, which is the best way to learn because you're fully immersed. You know, so I'd say dive in. To be honest, sounds yeah.
So we got a question from Zoom. Christina asks, what methods do you use to learn and master all the vocabulary in LingQ that you've accumulated? So she actually emailed me before the webinar and asked, when you create a new LingQ, what's your process for moving it into a known word, and how do you ensure that you're learning the new words over time?
Yeah. It's a valid question. I know when I started, that was on my mind. Like, I evaluate where I am with this, because I was doing a lot of the SRS tool that's on there, which I don't touch anymore.
Right.
I think I used it for about a month, and then, or maybe 2, I'm not sure. And then
I think that's pretty common. People use the review feature in the beginning, but after a while, you have so many links that it just becomes untenable.
It's impossible. I mean, if you like it, do it. But for me, I didn't like it, and I was getting more from reading. I would say, honestly speaking, these days, because I've got 35,000 on there. These days, I'm pretty liberal. So say if I read it, and all it is for me now is if I'm getting it in context. So I read the line, I'm like, okay, I know what they're trying to say here. I think it's this. Click on it. If it's that, I'll put it straight onto 4 immediately. There's no point in me being like, oh, I like how I pronounce it, or like maybe I won't remember it next time because I've got it in context. I know if you're thinking I need to know how to speak, for me, my opinion is you've got to, that's like a different almost realm. You read every day, it kind of sinks in, then you start to speak, and then those words start to pop up. That's how it's been. I would say you could, maybe I'm a little too liberal, like, to be honest, I think, but at the same time, like if it's country names or like, I don't know, like there's a million words that I'll delete because they
Ignore.
Yeah, ignore, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that's what I decided to do basically.
Right. So
I can read it and understand, and I can hear it and understand, I'll clear it. It used to, I used to grade them for the first 3 months, but it was kind of like, once you're at that certain point of reading where you can start to read in context, and that was like the real boom for me. Once I was able to start getting words in context, then it was, I started to clear them because I'm like, well, I understand what they mean. I get it.
So then, just to paraphrase, your process would be to focus on doing a lot of reading. So then you're going to come across those links. And then as soon as you come across that link and you understand the word within the context of the sentence or the paragraph, then you move it to known or move it to 4.
I move it to 4. I don't move it to, because then I'm still going to, for me, I know every day I'm going to read. At the moment, my goal is read 10,000 words a day in Spanish. So I know I'm going to see that, especially if it's common word, I'm going to see that word a lot. So by the time, there'll be times where I'll flick to a page and it's nearly all white and they're underlined, which is the 4. Then I just clear the ones that I know. I know them instantly because I've seen them in times. I could have had them at 2 or 3 and then put them to the 4, but I'm kind of like, it's made no difference to me, to be honest, the way I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Structure it the way that works for you, though. If you don't, for me, that just felt genuine because it's, you know what I mean? But
right. So the first time you understand the word in context, you move it to 4, and then the next time you understand the word, boom, known.
No, not the next time. I'll leave it for quite a while on 4.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to see it, and I basically click it to known. That's when I need to know exactly, like, is it past, is it present, all the itty gritty stuff. So yeah, I won't clear it. But honestly, a part of that is just I appreciate the look when it's white like a page, and I'm very orange for me is a bit distracting, but each to their own.
Right. Awesome. So I think that leads well into the next question from Toby. So you said that your goal is to read 10,000 words a day. So with that in mind, how do you manage your time to learn Spanish efficiently?
Well, I mean, it's honestly like, if you want to get really fit, you got to put time down to go to the gym. It's exactly the same. You got to put time aside. I think some people, maybe they're like, I do it when I find time, but for me, like, I'm pretty lazy, to be honest. If I do that, I'd never do it. So I started off wanting to do it 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and I was going to do half an hour a day. And then I realized I didn't want to have a day off because I felt like I was just really impatient to learn Spanish. So I went to 7 days a week. And then I realized, because when you first start, it's super tiring. You do get absolutely knackered in your brain. You can't do anymore. But then that was going away. So I kept extending the time. I found 2 hours is manageable for me, but I work from home. I know, and in my job now it's really busy, but say 3 months ago, for basically the whole time I've been using LingQ, it was very slow, to be honest. So I had more free time. Like, that's the truth. So if you're thinking like, how does he do it? I mean, I have the time to do it now. So you can tell that because it's not like as big as it was. So I would say, you've got to at least I would honestly say put an hour into it a day and don't have off would be my advice. I think repetition every day is more important than like 6 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what your life is, so you do you. But
right.
Do it.
Yeah, this has come up before. Like, obviously, not everybody is going to be able to do an hour a day. People work weird shifts and people have kids and, life gets in the way. But the doing building a consistent habit is going to be the best way to learn over time. And that's why we have the streak feature. So you can, you can see, we'll notify you if you haven't hit your daily link goal. And you can see how many days consecutively that you've hit your goal. So that feature is there for a reason, because research shows that, consistency is the key. Like you said, let's say doing reading 1,000 words per day over 7 days is going to be a lot more beneficial than reading 7,000 words one day a week. It's just spacing it out gives while you're not doing the reading, your brain is taking the input that you put in and connecting it to everything else in your brain. So your brain is working for you without you being aware that it's going on. So a consistent habit is the way to kind of leverage the architecture of our nervous system to learn in the best way. So thank you. Carol on Zoom asks, do you or did you find yourself creating a lot of phrase links along with the single word links?
That's a recent thing for me, to be honest. At first, I just wanted to tackle them one by one. Phrases I was learning phrases, but now that's like kind of what I'm obsessed with at the moment. Finding a phrase that I've seen a few times, I like identifying it myself, being like, I keep seeing this and I've heard it here as well. And then I'll highlight it. And that is something, to be honest, I don't even try and clear them. I just want them to show. So it's just flashing to me, this is important, read it. Because like my whole thing is not to do that SRS review. I just read content. And if I see a saying come up again and again, then I'll try and highlight it. I think it's honestly like, I think again, it's like one of those things where I wish I did earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's really useful because it's just a shortcut. If you know a phrase, it's an absolute shortcut. Instead of thinking, I've tried to learn it very individually, and then, that's a bit harder because you're translating from English and you're like, I don't understand. How does it make sense?
Right.
Now I'm getting to the point where I'm not too bothered if it doesn't make sense in English, as long as it works in Spanish. And then highlighting them. It's something you could do earlier. Go for that. I'd do it from day one if you think it's a legitimate phrase. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I know. I highlight a lot of phrases like you kind of hinted at. Like if there are words that I know the words, but I don't understand what it means in the context, then I know like, okay, this is a idiom, or this is a phrase that these words together mean something kind of differently than I would think the words mean by themselves. So I'll link that phrase, and it's usually like, okay, I get this now. We have a similar saying in English. They just use a different metaphor.
Yeah, 100%. I need to Google that, actually. I was going to do that today. Sayings in English and their Spanish counterparts, and I was going to import it. So I was like, that's like Australians always use sayings. So I'm like, this would be really handy.
Yeah. That'd be a good lesson to create.
Yeah.
I wonder if we have something like that on Link already. There might be.
I don't know. I know, like, you've got to be careful though. Like, this is a funny story. When I was first seeing my partner, I was messaging her on WhatsApp. She was back in Argentina. And so I searched like funny sayings in Spanish and sent her one, and it like makes no sense in Argentina. And apparently they were like, yeah, this guy doesn't have the faintest clue about the language. So be wary. Yeah, it's regional.
Yeah, a lot of those phrases don't translate between different countries.
Yeah.
Okay, Susie Rave 1 on YouTube says, sounds like you can understand a lot, but how's your speaking? I know the two go hand in hand, of course, but I'm struggling with speaking rather than understanding. And I know you mentioned this earlier that Yeah, I mean, we touched on this earlier that uh, reading and building up your vocab is you need input at first in order to have the foundation for output. But at some point, you gotta you gotta practice speaking if
Yeah,
that is the
yeah,
ultimate goal.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to. I'm definitely not going to pretend I'm like walking around the street here, like talking to everyone, no problem. That's not the case. I'm like what 7 months in to learning Spanish. So for where I am, I'm good. I can hold a conversation, but it's like a little touch and go at times. If it gets into territory where they've used a bit of slang or something, I don't understand.
Hmm.
Obviously, I can ask them to repeat or say I don't understand all that stuff. I can have a conversation. I'd say a very basic one.
Hmm.
Honestly, speaking for me now is way now I've started speaking to my partner every day in Spanish,
Hmm.
where we'll have short little conversations every day. I'm obviously lucky that I've got that option. And then I have a teacher. So I have an hour a day where for about 2 months now, we've just spoken in Spanish for the lesson. Um, it's it's a different world one-on-one to the street because someone's not speaking slowly for you. Like there's so many levels of speaking. I would honestly say keep doing the content. There's like 2 months or like a month and a half before you go from where you can understand pretty well and then you start to speak. And I found that really difficult period because it's kind of disheartening where you're like, well, I can understand what people are saying. Why can't I communicate? I'd just say just keep doing it. Honestly, just push through because you will get to the point where you'll start little. It's very frustrating, to be honest. Like, I don't know if there's an easier way to do it. I'd probably say you could just keep going with input for longer and then try and be easier. But obviously, I'm in a situation where I need it now. So I'm trying to push as quick as I can to speak.
Hmm.
Uh, all you can do is push through. Like, speaking is different to understanding, but the more understanding you have, the better you'll be at communicating.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I know people like to approach this in different ways. Um, Steve doesn't even do any speaking for the first few months until he builds up a base, and then he starts speaking. Personally, me, I start speaking immediately, because I like to be able to say just one word to a person in their language and them respond to me. That is very gratifying and motivating for me. So if I know how to say hello, thank you, um, the basics, I will use that immediately. Um, I know some people don't like to do that, like we said. So again, it's up to you, but at some point you have to practice speaking. And like on Link, the reason that we have links as the primary goal, and not words read, is because you want to be exposing yourself to new things so that you're always pushing your boundaries. Um, you can read 100,000 words a day, but if it's no new words, you're not really improving in the language. And I think the same thing goes with speaking. You don't want to push yourself too much, um, but at some point you gotta practice. If your goal is to be able to speak conversationally fluent, you have to practice speaking. And again, people like to do that at different stages. So find what works for you. We have tutors on Link that, you can find a tutor in your language and have conversations. It's similar to italki. I know a lot of people use italki. In Spanish, I used a service called Baselang when I went to Colombia, and I was doing tutor conversations with native speakers. Um, but if I was doing it again, I would have focused more on reading, because I can have I when I was in Colombia, I could say things, people understood me, my pronunciation was good, but my vocab was very, very limited. So if I were to go back, I would focus, um, do the reading and listening on Link and get my vocab up, before before going so deep into speaking. But yeah, if you can understand well, and you're struggling with speaking, it's probably a good time to, spend more time in actual conversations and find a tutor to do that with, find friends, go to the restaurant in your town with the language where they speak. There's a lot of different ways. We're gonna be trying to have some conversation meetups here on LingQ for LingQ Premium users. So we'll get tutors to lead the discussions in each language, and we can meet on Zoom, and we can break off into breakout rooms so that each language has their own room, and then we'll practice conversations. So that's that. Let's see, we got another question here. I'm a newbie on LingQ wanting to learn Korean, but finding that too hard as I don't know any characters of their written language. Any hacks you could give me? Well, obviously Nick, you and I are both learning Spanish.
Good luck.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how they do it, to be honest. That's the
yes,
step.
yeah. Spanish is much more similar to English, our native language, than is Korean. But for most of the languages, there are lessons on the alphabet. So in Korean, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that we have lessons on the characters, and there's beginner lessons. Korean is one of the more popular languages, so there's a ton of content for beginners. So I would say try to find the beginner stuff. Post in the LingQ forum. Go to the community, post in the forum, ask people that have been there in your situation where they're trying to learn Korean and they're struggling. We have thousands and thousands of people. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's in the thousands, maybe tens of thousands learning Korean. So the chances are good that somebody has been through that before, and they can help you find the right content for you. So that's my suggestion to you, Susie. Go on the LingQ forum, ask other learners of Korean how they I'm sorry, Juanita, how, yeah, go to the LingQ forum, ask for some advice on beginner Korean, and I'm sure you can find some people that have been in that situation, and they can help you out. So, all right, here on Zoom, Louisa asks, so did you, Nick, say that you read 10,000 words per day or 1,000 words per day?
It's 10,000. Yeah.
10,000. So are you hitting that most days?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, yes. Like that's easy. I don't know. It's only a recent-ish goal. It's just a way because I have enough words. If I watch an hour interview, there's very few words that I won't have cleared.
Right.
I know I've got enough words to be speaking, so it's just more repetition getting them in my mind.
Yep.
The firmer I am with the language, the better. So 10,000 words a day is just a goal I set to just make sure it's not the amount of words I'm clearing or anything. It's just the amount I'm getting.
Yeah, that's the input. That's what you can control. So
yeah, exactly. I just want to
really
know
good goal.
this amount of input, that's the min. Or, if I'm doing 2 hours, but it used to be 2 hours firm. Now it's just 10,000 words.
Cool. And Michael asks, can you understand Portuguese speakers?
Actually, weirdly enough, it was like 3 days ago. Can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was on Netflix or YouTube. Something in Portuguese came up and I understood it. And it was like the weirdest moment for me because I was like, turned to my partner, are they speaking Portuguese? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, but I understand because Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah, it's
simpler.
Right. It's there's a lot of overlap, and some words just like they just use a different ending. Like instead of corazón, they say corazón, or instead of mujer, they say
soy,
mujer. Yeah.
It's I mean, it was an awesome moment, to be honest, but that's so cool. I didn't know I could do that. But I mean, if someone in Portuguese came up and said something to me, would I understand? I have no idea. I'd give it a go. I don't think so, though, to be honest.
Yeah, Michael. So to answer your question, it depends. I mean, usually, if you're a fluent Spanish speaker and a fluent Portuguese speaker, they could probably understand each other. If they just
read it too. You
Right.
can read it. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
read it. Like reading's a bit easier.
yeah. But there are some words are just very different. So and some words are they call them false friends, where it looks like a cognate. It looks like this word looks a lot like this other word in the other language, but actually they're completely different meanings. But you know, if you're learning Spanish, for instance, when I went to Brazil a couple months after I started learning Spanish, and I could understand a little bit. I mean, at that point, my Spanish wasn't to a point where I can, be comfortable. But but I had some friends with me who also had learned Spanish for about a year and went to Brazil and picked up Portuguese pretty quickly. So
Question.
so awesome. So yeah, so you said 10,000 words in reading 10,000 words. How much, what does that come out to in terms of um, hours and minutes?
Um, I mean, now it's quicker. I don't actually know how long that'll take me now. It doesn't take me 2 hours. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's that. I know. Hold on. I'm just checking my profile. Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at now, but I've got it. I'll be completely honest though. Like, I've got a lot of my stats are okay because I am competitive. So if I saw someone that was close, I would do extra study, and that would actually help me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about in the challenge.
In the challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
So say, like even when I was like starting off, I just picked the person in front of me and just make sure I was doing more than them every day,
Mm-hmm.
and then slowly work and just work my way up the list. It was a good way to motivate.
That's a great lead into a question from Rachel on YouTube. Um, so she asks, how do you keep your motivation alive or your discipline alive? So it sounds like
Childish,
yeah, do the 90-day challenge, sign up for the challenge, and if you're competitive, then you're gonna see somebody above you, and you're gonna be like, all right, I gotta do more linking.
Yeah, honestly, that some days I wouldn't not want to do it, but then I just put in my mind, oh, this guy's now he's above me again. Okay, well I need to put in at least an hour, and then I got a little in front, and I'm like, oh, I'll just put a bit more, so then he can't, I'll get the next guy.
Yeah,
That honestly, like,
it works for you.
but that helps as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've done reading on LingQ. I've done, what is that? I think it's like 1.8 million or something.
1.8 million words.
A lot of reading,
Wow.
probably. Yeah, a lot of reading. So yeah, 10,000 a day, as you can imagine, that by now it's pretty manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, start though, it wasn't like that.
Right.
That's a long time to get to that point. I
Do
didn't have
do you
off
mind
until 2 months.
sharing do you mind sharing your screen right now?
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, because this is a great thing on Link. Maybe for those who aren't familiar with Link, you can see your stats and get a very clear, visual of the activity that you've put in. And right now, Nick has it set up to the last 7 days, and you can change that timeline.
Yeah, I've got it all the
See.
time there. So I have
Yeah.
goals like
Can you go
2
to
million words.
the graph above?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So change that from 7 days, and so you can, again, you get a very clear visual of the activity that you've put in over time. And I think that's especially helpful when you're at kind of a upper beginner intermediate phase where maybe it doesn't feel like you're making any progress. But when you look at this, you can look at the known words and the links learned and just the activity itself. Um, that in itself can be motivating to keep track of that. So if you set goals, if you set a goal like there's obviously a lot of different goals to set. You can say, okay, I want to read a book, like you said, Nick. Maybe I want to learn 10,000 words in 2 months, or I want to learn 5,000 words in 3 months. Set goals like that. again, we said sign up for a 90-day challenge. And if you're competitive, that can be really motivating. And if you're, maybe more internally focused, just, committing yourself to hitting a target, that can be super motivating. And especially for 90 days, like, it's one thing to set a goal for a week, but to set a goal for 90 days, that's a long, that's a long period. So something like that can be really, really helpful if you're looking for motivation. So I would definitely say go sign up for the 90-day challenge. The November challenge is open for sign up right now. So that will go from November, December, January. So why wait to make a New Year's resolution? Just get started now. The November challenges are open for sign up. So go to link, go to if you're on the web app, you go to community and then hit challenges, sign up for the challenge for your language. If you're on the mobile app, then you go to the more tab and then challenges, and you can sign up there. So yeah, I don't even know if we mentioned this, but the reason Nick is on here today is because he was the champion in June and July of the 90-day challenge for Spanish. And I was going through looking for people that had won the challenge, and I saw it, like, you were miles above the next the
Yeah,
next
that was
competitor.
a good one. The
Yeah.
current one I'm in, not so good. I think I'm coming second, but that was a good one. Yeah. I had that moment where you go from like it's word to word and then you start getting context. And then it's just sort of like the amount of words you start clearing is crazy.
Yep.
Like, oh yeah, I get that. I get what they mean. I get it. And then it's just more and more. And then that's really when I got stuck in. I think that's the one you saw.
Like a snowball.
Yeah, it is. This whole process of learning for me has been like that. It's really hard. You got to do a lot of pushing. Then it just gets easier and easier. For me now, it's like it's just fun. To be honest, I'm enjoying it. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's a good point to end here on. Keep doing the work. If you're in the beginning, it's gonna be a slog. But keep it up, and you may find that you start to really enjoy it. And especially as you go along, you build up this snowball effect, and it becomes really much more enjoyable because the rate at which new words become known really increases. So thank you, Nick, for coming on.
no worries. All good.
Good. Best of luck with the Spanish. And yeah, guys, this recording will be available on Facebook and YouTube, and then we'll post it in the forum thread. So thank you guys on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube for coming. We'll do these live streams every week, at least until the end of November. So keep a lookout for emails on the next.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.